and welcome everybody, episode 38 of Kerbal Space Endeavour here. As promised, we have a window for Eve coming up, and with a little bit of a delay here, I was actually able to design all the crafts that I need to get there. But as you know, we have no crew on board of Shangri-La for building anything, so we'll have to send a new crew up, and we're gonna pick Jebediah because it's gonna be a really hard mission. We need a good pilot. We're gonna take Shelkin, who's also a good astronaut by now, Bernhard, and Bernhard, Werbert, and Billy Bobry, and of course Jack. And as our last crewman, we are going to take Gustus Kerman. And we're going to send these guys up because our automated station in orbit is not capable of making its own craft, so we need a crew to assemble things in orbit. So we're going to send these guys up about 120 days before our Eve departure window. I think it's actually more. I think it was 189 days before our departure window, because it's going to take some time to construct all the vehicles and get them prepped and ready for departure. So yeah, we're gonna just warp ahead here a little bit, and as you can see, if Jebediah is on the helm, our docking maneuvers go a lot smoother and a lot easier, even though there is a little bit of a bump coming right up. The crafts that I've designed for Eve took really literally 2 weeks to design, and I must say Eve is definitely one of the things I am not too happy about on going to, but I've tested them, they work, or at least I got them to work once. And this is the first craft we're building here. This is the Eve manned mission, and it's gonna take some time until this construction here is done, so we're gonna time accelerate here so we're not going to bore you to hell. Alright, here we are, once it is complete, and we're gonna hit the finalize button, wait for it to load, and hopefully not break the game. No, it does not break. So yeah, this is the Eve manned mission. Its purpose is getting there, parking in orbit, waiting for everyone to be done, and then we'll return back home. But as you can see, we don't have enough fuel for it to leave orbit yet, or leave the station, so we'll have to go back down to the surface, where our behemoth is going to send continuously fuel, metal, and any other supplies we might need back to the station. All of the crafts that I've designed for leaving to Eve are automated at first, and we're going to crew them later, so we're not going to use up any of the food, water, and oxygen before we actually depart for Eve, because I do not want to run out of any of the life support. So, back here in orbit, we can actually, sorry, that was my phone, we can actually leave the dry dock. And as you can see behind here on the craft, we have a small lander, which is not intended for Eve, but rather for Gilly. And Gilly has very low gravity, so we only need a very small craft. And we are not bringing a lab on board or anything, because there's only 3 biomes waiting for us on Eve, so I brought enough material base and mystery goo containers, and we save ourselves the trouble of bringing an entire lab for reprocessing them or cleaning the experiment base. So yeah, we're just gonna put this into a parking orbit right here, which is a little bit higher than the orbit of Shangri-La. I think I've put it in a 550 kilometer orbit. Yes, there you go, you can see it, it's circularized. We're a little bit behind of Shangri-La. However, let's move on. Next craft is our Eve Ground Explorer, the Mark I. And with a little bit of cutting and time acceleration, you guys see the completion. Well, there's a little bit of a problem here when you build things not from the VAB, but from the spaceplane hangar. And as you can see, this wonderful craft right here was built right into the rest of the station. And I know what is going to happen once I press the release button. And yeah, well, you guys probably can guess it already as well. So we're just gonna skip ahead to an alternate universe where I actually hit the release button. And you guys see a wonderful, wonderful explosion. I must say it looks really cool. Like really, really cool when all these pieces start floating away and exploding and everything. And oh, even our crew transport survived the explosion and everything. And even parts of the ground explorer survived. But the station would no longer be functional, and as fun as it would be to mess around with it and build a new one and so forth and so forth, I'm a little bit low on time, so we're not gonna do that. So to fix this, I had to go back into the spaceplane hangar and turn the craft around. So originally it was like this, and then it was built the wrong way, like it thinks that the position is down here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna flip it, and then we're going to save and retry this entire endeavor thanks to quick saving and quick loading. So yeah, here we go, finalizing the build again, and as you can see, it now is perfectly aligned and we have no explosions. But of course, we're low on food and oxygen. We have to replenish these as well with the same manners as we have done in previous episodes. So we have 2 atomic engines here and a small little engine right here because the Eve Ground Explorer Mark 1 is not completely balanced, and therefore we need this small little extra engine so we're not spinning out of control, because the reaction control wheels are not powerful enough to keep the craft flying in a straight line. So I had to add this small little engine so we're not spinning out of control once we're accelerating. Well, this craft at the moment is automated as well, and we have put it into a parking orbit, a little bit different to the Eve manned mission. And as you can see right here, the small dots that have reappeared again are from the distant object mod, and I reactivated the flares, which I had to deactivate due to the cacti mod. So just so you know why there's suddenly blimps in the sky again. Okay, continuing on. Next craft here is the marvelous thing that I've been working my 2 weeks on. It's the lander, which will go land on Eve, fly around, collect the signs, meet up with the Eve Ground Explorer, and replenish its science base and everything else. This is the craft that Jebediah will have to fly in because we need a really good pilot for it. We have carbonite engines, rocket engines, we have carbonite fueled atmospheric engines, and a whole bunch of other things. We have some more fuel in here, life support, and science base right there. And we also have a small converter so we can turn carbonite into liquid fuel and oxidizer. But how this craft will turn out and intentionally work, or hopefully work, will be in future episodes, so I'm not going to go into much detail right now. So this craft as well was put into a parking orbit, and we still have a couple of days before, actually have more than enough days until we can leave for Eve. So I set myself a time clock or alarm clock so I know when it is time to leave, or actually send crews to all of these missions so then we can leave. So we're just gonna time warp here and time accelerate because we have nothing else to do. I mean, I could already use the time to build things for Duna, but I thought, nah, we'll save that for another time. And here we have our alarm clock going off. Now, I skipped a little bit of the refueling and manning our mission right here, our crew transport, because it is boring and a little bit laggy around Shangri-La. So we're just going to show the departure right here under 4 times time acceleration. And yeah, we're just gonna mark the first target right here that we're going to get to, and yeah, spin around, deactivate all of the ports, and make ourselves on, or get ourselves on the merry way to our first target. So let's go ahead and switch to it when we actually have the docking coming up. This is the Eve lander, Mark, what was it? I think it was like 34. I think this is the Mark 34. Yes, it took that many tries to design a craft which is capable of not only flying and landing on Eve, but actually escaping Eve, which is one of the hardest things to do. So we transferred Jebediah over and we refueled the little amount that we've already used to get into the parking orbit, and we move on to the next, where we're going to transfer the next crew guys over, which is going to be Billy Bobry Kerman, if I remember, and Bernard Kerban. Yes, these guys are going to go over. We're also going to refuel here a little bit, and once again we have another place to go, which is the Eve manned mission. Yes, there it is. Beautiful, with our awesome surface light attached thingies. Okay, one of the mistakes that I made right here is I only transferred one Kerbal over, and I needed two. How I'm going to deal with this once I get to Eve, I will have to figure out when I get there, because it was intended that one guy stays on the main craft that is going to go back, and the other one was intended to go on to Gilly and then return. I have satellite connection over Eve, so maybe I can work with that, but we'll see when it is actually time. So yeah, switching over here, you can see all of these crafts leaving one after each other for Eve, because the window was here. And I'm not going to show all of this burn time that I used, because boring. But as you can see, all of these three crafts are actually leaving in about 20 minutes apart from each other. So technically, if I'm pretty good at aiming, I should get there 20 minutes apart from each other. Hopefully. There was a mod suggested by one of my viewers recently which allows me to steer three crafts simultaneously together. However, it doesn't work when I have so many ships that have so many parts on them, so that's why I couldn't include it in this episode. Alright, I'm skipping a little bit ahead here. This is the Draz mission, which is returning from, haha, you have guessed it, Draz. And there's a little bit of change that I have to make, because otherwise I would come in the wrong side of Kerbin, and I wouldn't be able to dock with Shangri-La. So we had to make this little course correction, and this craft still has 7,000 meters per second of delta V, so it was no trouble getting into orbit without using aerobraking, even though at the very end right here where we're coming into dock, you can see in the top right corner of the screen, I was very, very low on fuel, like really low on fuel. I was actually quite lucky right here. So yeah, this wonderful craft here, we are not gonna burn up in the atmosphere as we did with the Moho mission. We're just going to disassemble it right here and use the scrap metal for maybe the Duna mission, which will come up in the next episode, because our window for Duna is in about 100 days, so construction should probably start fairly soon. And yeah, the crew from our Draz mission is going to be sent down to Kerbin right away, because these guys have been in space for a fairly long time, and I think they do as well deserve some shore leave. I wonder if they are going to implement things like space craziness or something like that into the main game at a certain point, where you can't just leave Kerbals in space forever or eternity. But I think before they're going to do something like that, they're probably going to introduce some kind of life support. But I'll guess we'll see that in the future releases. Even though version 1.0 is coming closer and closer, and I'm quite excited for the aerodynamics the new aerodynamics model, which will make the core game a lot better, and I will probably not need far or near anymore. And also new parts and everything, because all of these engines and everything will have to be tweaked for the new aerodynamic system to work. But yeah, so after watching this disassemble, we're going to get our crew back home. And while this is happening, you guys can watch one of these descents actually that I have skipped a lot in the previous episodes, and you can see a lot of fun maneuvering where it's close flybys and a lot of other things. I wanted to talk about another game that I'm going to start posting, and that is Homeworld. Homeworld Remastered. I'm a big fan of Homeworld. I was young when it was released, and I loved it. I'm a huge fan of strategy games and sci-fi strategy games that are actually hard and interesting. Definitely give me goosebumps, and I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I'm going to start uploading videos regularly of all of the single player, because the multiplayer is still in the beta version. Back here, back to the video, I say. I had to make a hard U-turn, which you should never try when you have reheating effects, because I kind of overshot, because I was tired and careless. Now, as you're gonna see, we are going to have a normal landing. Back to Homeworld. It's a strategy game. If you're interested, try to take a look at it. I'm going to post a link right here. And as always, in the outro, you will have my links to my other videos. If you want to check them out, I'd appreciate it. And I hope you like it as much as I do. And back to the game, we have a normal landing, a successful landing, and our Dres crew is back home, which I think they brought like one data back, because all of the rest was actually transmitted. You're going to see it in just a minute. It's the surface. I think they brought some surface samples back from the lowlands of Dres or something like that. Yeah, there it is, lowlands Dres. Another note is that I stopped uploading my Dragon Age Inquisition videos because my wife is not watching them, so actually no one is watching them, so I don't really want to upload them anymore, because it just takes a lot of time, and if no one's watched them, it's waste of time. If you guys do want to see them, let me know. I can still upload them. However, we're gonna see each other in the next episode or on Homeworld.